Hello, I'm Carole House. I serve as the Special Advisor for Cybersecurity and Critical Infrastructure at the White House National Security Council. I just recently returned to the NSC from a few years outside of government, but previously served in a variety of different roles, really being at the nexus of where technology was being exploited and national security objectives meet at the US Treasury, on the Hill, 3 tours in the White House, and then previously as a US Army captain. So first, I just want to thank the Center for Financial Inclusion for the honor to speak to you all today about such a critical issue that has been at the heart of many efforts ongoing across the US government. Then, before diving into some of the great work that we've had underway, I want to first set the scene for why I'm speaking on this issue from the National Security Council. There are many outcomes and equities that we desire for our financial system, ranging across areas like ensuring financial system and market stability to driving consumer protections, fighting financial criminals and money launderers, and promoting US leadership in technological innovation and reinforcing our role and centrality in the global financial system. Financial inclusion directly impacts and is directly impacted by each of these desired outcomes. So national security areas like combating money laundering and terrorism financing is not an objective that we drive toward in a vacuum, nor is financial inclusion pursued without consideration for many other factors. Instead, these areas align in a common, mutually supporting vision of providing inclusive access for consumers to safe, affordable, and secure financial goods and services, making financial inclusion a cornerstone of our national and economic security interests. So now I'm going to transition a bit into talking about the importance of technology and how some of the efforts that we've had underway to promote security and trust in cyberspace is also critical to that financial inclusion. Because as we talked about, inclusion in a system that doesn't have necessary guardrails in place to prevent exploitation of consumers for their data to be taken or for them to be exploited by cyber criminals or other illicit actors, that is not a desirable outcome that we have for financial inclusion in our systems. And as we're getting more and more reliant and intertwined with that technology, as I mentioned before, like we're not getting less digitized, we're getting more and more digitized, which means that we need to figure out ways that as those technologies provide scale of access to services and democratized access of services to citizens, it also is providing that democratized access to illicit actors. So we need to make sure that we're leveraging those technologies for good to prevent those malevolent actors to exploit the good actors, and then to continue to drive that scaled economic opportunity and inclusive access to Americans and other citizens globally. So first, I'll talk about digital identity, something that I've worked on for years since I was at Treasury leading our identity efforts. Identity is a critical issue. The rapid innovation in the internet and mobile phones and other digital technologies has brought unprecedented convenience and efficiency to everyday Americans. When these same citizens interact with the physical world online, though, the experience is often rampant with friction and opportunities for exploitation. So the lack of strong digital identity amplifies this friction. As digital payments, commerce, and interactions continue to grow, there's an increasing need and opportunity for fostering development of strong identity solutions that can provide that easy, secure, affordable, reliable way for consumers to identify themselves and counterparties across digital systems. So identity is also a really complicated issue. Just like anything involving financial inclusion is very complicated and dynamic of an issue with implications for cybersecurity, economic growth, privacy. The list continues on, but that's why dialogues like what's happening this week between government and industry is invaluable to examine the varying aspects of identity and other complex technology issues. Identity plays a core role in a lot of the cybersecurity efforts that we've had underway in the administration, and for good reason. Many cyber incidents involve vectors of compromise that could have been thwarted through stronger identity and access management solutions, like implementation of multi-factor authentication solutions. We've seen identity solution weaknesses also as a culprit in significant amounts of cybercrime, including cyber-enabled financial crime like synthetic identity fraud that undermines identity verification, account takeovers that target weaknesses in identity authentication, and business email compromise fraud that targets weaknesses in authorization and verification processes between trusted counterparties. So we've heard estimates from industry counterparts that a vast majority of ransomware incidents could have been prevented simply through implementing MFA or multi-factor authentication solutions. And identity also sits at the core of zero trust implementations, which is a kind of strategy or approach in cybersecurity to sort of presume that your networks have been compromised, and that ensures that you're providing least privilege access to critical and sensitive information, which again, all this touches back to financial inclusion in digital ecosystems demands that we consider and account for how to have these strong identity practices in place to prevent exploitation along with that inclusion, so that we just have that safe and secure financial inclusion. Also, in my past role, when I was out in industry, which I recently came back in for government from, I served as the chair for the Commodity Futures Trading Commission for the U.S., the chair of the Technology Advisory Committee, and I contributed to as a chair there to two reports that we published on issues of artificial intelligence as well as digital assets. Also, in my role at the White House, I've been supporting efforts on security of artificial intelligence, and also for ensuring responsible development of digital assets like cryptocurrency and central bank digital currencies. So for AI and digital assets, these two issues highlight this paradigm shift towards decentralization and democratized access towards really interesting and innovative technologies. That's democratized access to really sophisticated tech, like we saw with the advent of ChatGPT and Llama and all these other really sophisticated large language models. This is driving incredible opportunity in the economy. It's also, from a national security perspective, potentially driving incredible democratized access opportunities for malevolent actors like cyber criminals. So the ability for cybercrime groups to be able to leverage this highly sophisticated tech to conduct pervasive fraud campaigns and cybersecurity and cybercrime ecosystem activity is a great concern to us. For example, some of the major methods that we had told financial institutions when I was at FinCEN to combat fraud schemes like business email compromise fraud, we told them to have an out-of-band, multi-step authorization process for high-value transactions. But now, with the potentially pervasive access to and capability for highly sophisticated deepfake technology, the ability to circumvent those kinds of controls to protect yourself and your institution from BEC fraud is almost arbitrary to circumvent for increasingly unsophisticated cybercrime actors, because AI makes these capabilities much more accessible. So this is where the United States government, through areas like establishing our AI Safety Institute down at NIST, as well as other efforts that we have underway across the US government, are looking for ways to promote the safe and responsible development of AI technologies, and to ensure that we can also use and leverage AI at the speed and scale and sophistication that we need to be able to tailor things like risk management frameworks and risk assessments, so that we don't make arbitrary determinations like de-risking of broad categories of personnel, but then also that we can use that technology to combat that pervasive fraud. So all of those are some of the steps that we have underway across the US government to promote that safe and secure access to financial services that's part of that intersection of where national security and financial inclusion objectives really meet to each other. I'm so honored to have had the opportunity to speak to you all, and the conversations that are ongoing are incredible this week. I thank you so much again for the opportunity and the honor to speak to you all.